what do you think about epigenetics? Like, do you know anything? Like, you know the concept of epigenetics, like
No,
genes get
give me
passed
the.
down.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay, like
Yeah,
it's
give
just
me
basically
the basic stuff. Yeah, just
so
a reminder.
genes just get passed down.
Okay.
Like from like so, if I'm good at jujitsu, those those um those traits will pass down to my kid if I have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I heard this thing like Tara teaches like puberty education, and I didn't even know this, but when you're giving, it's like if there's a mother and then she gets pregnant, the child that she's pregnant with is born with all of the eggs that they will have for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
So like so like well, first off, I didn't know that girls females only have a set number of eggs that they're born with, and that's it. Did you
Okay.
know that?
No.
I did not. It's so insane. It's so. I was like, oh, okay. There's so many things I didn't know. I was just like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So all females, when they're born, the eggs that they have are the only eggs they'll ever have. They don't create new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when they're born as well, they are the mother. It's like if like Tara's mom gave birth to Tara. So the eggs that Tara has are genetically influenced by her mom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I
Because
understand.
right, because you're right,
Right.
your grandmother.
Sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, so I knew nothing about my mom's grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just knew he was in the army. That was it. I was like, oh yeah, he's a colonel in the army. All right, that's cool. Or general. No, he died as a general because you get like automatic promotion. So I had no idea. And then Tara's sister was like, "Do you have any grandparents?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just have like my grandma on my mom's side." And then, "Oh, do you get to know them?" I was like, "No." And then she's like, "What were their names?" I'm like, "I actually don't even know." Like I knew nothing about my mom's side. We always
Mm-hmm.
focused on
Mm-hmm.
my dad's side.
Yeah.
I don't even didn't even know my mom's parents' names. Okay, it was all preface. So all right, just remember, I knew nothing. Okay, so I go right after Easter, like, because that was then we were picking up Athena, and I'm like, "Hey, mom, like, what what are your parents' names?" And my mom's like, "Oh, this," and I'm like, "Oh, what did your dad do?" And she's like, "Yeah, he was a general in the army." And like, "Oh, do you have any stories?" So it turns out my mom grew up in military camps as a
Mm-hmm.
kid. She was going because she was a military kid, and she was really close to her dad, right?
I
Like,
kind of knew that. Oh, we didn't know that.
all right, my sister was like, "Mom's been telling us this story all the time." I'm like, I just never listened. That's
Because
crazy.
no, because I learned all
You
that
knew?
when we went to Philippines.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know any of this, bro. Damn. Okay, I didn't know this. All right. All right, it gets crazier. Damn, that's crazy that you knew. I just don't. I'm so self-centered. Like, look at that. I don't even know anything about my mom. So, my mom's parents both died of like heart disease, and that's why she doesn't drink or smoke because she's like those are contributors to heart disease. So like it kind of turned her off like
Mm.
that. And then so she grew up in military camps. There was a one time, so I didn't even know how, like, you're like, oh, you're just in a military camp. But during the time when she grew up, it was rebel occupied in the Philippines. So, like, there was a government stuff. It was like anti government and for the government.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's dad was for the government. So, while they were a kid, they were having like a bonfire, all the military kids. And then they sound the alarm and they're like, what's going on? And they're like, the rebels are trying to invade the camp that we're in. So they had to bring all the kids into like this one place. And my mom's dad and the soldiers killed all the rebels. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty crazy. And my mom's like, yeah, we used to watch people train all the time and like do all these military procedures. Her dad actually trained military people because he was like pretty high up. And then he was famous for killing the most famous rebel who was against the Philippine like army, and then he retired, and then he became a drug anti-drug smuggling person in their region, and then after that he was like a national police overseer or something to like train them and stuff, and then when he died he got an automatic promotion from colonel to general,
Mm-hmm.
as they do. So that's why my mom doesn't like gun movies. Like I was like, why don't you like? Because me and my dad and my sister, we always go to the action
Sure.
movies, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like she's like, "Oh, I don't like the guns. Like you can't have any guns in the house." Oh, like my dad will have like a fake toy. I don't like the fake toy,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, "Why?" But it's the trauma of like being she's like, "Well, I grew up with this. Like I grew up around literal killers, watching them kill other people
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Of
prepare this
course.
stuff, right?"
Right, right.
Okay. So, and she'd always be like, "Oh, that's so funny. You're going to jujitsu, or like you're going to martial arts. That's cute, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's because you knew real killers. I'm practicing. I'm LARPing as a killer." You know what I mean?
Right.
She's like, "This is so dumb. Like, what?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right, right, right.
But here's the question. Did the genetics get passed down from my grandpa into me? And that's why my propensity is to be like aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad just like, it's like nature and nurture, right? My dad just like fueled it because he loved watching action movies, you know?
Right.
Because I didn't know any of that. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, is that why I'm like obsessed with like learning martial arts? What do you think?
No, there
Is that
could
a
be.
piece of it? Like, it's kind of
Yeah.
weird, right?
No, I think there could be a piece of it. I feel like, but things there could also be where there needs to, you may have certain genes or other in other direction too, but you need certain catalysts to also trigger them on.
Like nature nurse, like it
Yeah,
turned on the gene.
yeah, because
So then my
you're
dad bring me to the movies. I'm like, oh, cool, and it turned on that gene.
yeah.
Yeah, could be, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was so wild. And but then my mom was like, so I think that there's like they did this thing on rats and remote viewing. This related to UAPs, but there's a study where they would take the rat away from the mother, and then they torture the child, and then the mother, the brainwaves of the rat, they'll see it spike because it's based
Mm-hmm.
off of love. The more love and attachment you have, the more the connection there is, right? And then when my mom was like, "Oh, I was a daddy's girl," like she's like really like she's like, "Me, we
Mm-hmm.
hung out all the time, whatever." I'm like, did that love somehow transpose into your genetics as well? Because there's a bond there. Because she
Mm-hmm.
was saying that like, well, that can't. Because I was like, oh my god, this is why I'm so obsessed. Like epigenetic, mom was just like laughing at me. You're so dumb. And then she's like, but my brothers completely went away from that. Like all of her brothers are peaceful. Their sons are peaceful. Nobody wants to fight. I'm the only one that's like aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like because they were so traumatized by their childhood too that there's like, I want to stay far away from this as possible.
Right.
So it's like, because the love was there, so it's like it almost like bonded those genes. Like, I'm
It
not too
could
sure,
be.
like
Yeah,
why.
yeah. It could have been like a positive outlook on those things because of your experiences with your dad. Like
Yeah, okay.
again, this is all opinion, but
Speculation. I'm just like, it's kind of
speculation,
weird.
opinion. Yeah, yeah. But then the other ones were like maybe their view, but also like I don't know, is did they have a connection to the mom? Like you know
Maybe I don't know.
how
I'd
that
ask
works?
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. It's so weird. We're such a domino effect. We just don't even realize. Like when I found this out, it just like clicked for me. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that explains a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone's laughing at me, like Tara's laughing at me, like this is not real. And I'm like, no, I swear there's something like we know about epigenetics. We know about like you just told me about the egg thing. So it's like,
Yeah, it's not saying that
you
we're,
know,
but there's nothing wrong with thinking this sort of thing is kind of like it's hard to prove these things. Sure, if you want to say like
hard to prove.
it's
Yeah,
not real,
facts.
but there's something. I think there's something there. I think like if our genes are being like we can see, oh, you have certain things of your mom or your dad or whatever, right? We can see
Yeah,
the gene. I don't see why like certain the way our brain would work maybe similar
like
too. Like
behavioral
why wouldn't
patterns.
why wouldn't that also be
Yes.
transferred?
No, thank you. That's totally right. Like that's a great example actually. Like if heart disease, because they're like, oh yeah, like you have a propensity towards diabetes, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, we know genetically you have a predisposition towards a health concern.
Yeah.
Why don't you have a predisposition towards a behavioral pattern?
Yeah.
Right? It only makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're just taking it too reductionist. Like, oh,
But they
the
do,
body, right?
but they do kind of say that too, right? Like, oh,
Oh,
come from a family like depression is not a like a depression. If our
oh
parents
yeah,
had depression or like they're, like the chances of you having that
yeah.
kind of thing, it's the
It's
same.
it's
But it's a
but they
behavioral
say
thing too, right? It's part of the brain.
it's behavioral, but they liken it to a chemical imbalance. So I'm like, oh, they're trying to reduce it. They're trying to be reductionist about it. Oh, it's just chemical thing,
Yeah, but
So it's like
behavioral is all chemical, anyways.
that's what I'm saying too, right? So I'm like, okay, it makes sense that like behaviorally, I'd be like, maybe I'm just getting more dopamine. Let's reduce it further. I'm just getting more dopamine as I'm seeing these action sequences.
Mm,
So I'm just chasing dopamine,
right.
you know? Like I always get this like dopamine spike. There's like a dopamine crash. So I taught yesterday and I had this huge dopamine spike. And then when I came home, Tara's like, oh, you're so like bummed out, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I always get this way after I teach. Like, remember when I used to teach at EMA? So I was teaching like a class and I was like super excited while I was doing it, like dopamine,
Mm-hmm,
dopamine,
mm-hmm.
dopamine. And then as I get home, there's like no dopamine. So I'm just like, oh, right.
Right.
But it's like, that's behavioral too. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all a part of it. We don't realize there's a book called like The Brain and the Meaning of Life, and it says that like all human beings just seek out dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're like, oh, I'm gonna run, and they're like, oh, that's so taxing. Like, you don't want like like doing something uncomfortable creates no dopamine. No, you're delaying your dopamine satisfaction now for a greater dopamine hit later. So you're literally just chasing the higher hit of dopamine every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that makes sense, right? Like you're like, I don't want to go to the gym, da da da, but you go anyways
Yeah.
because after you'll feel better, you'll get a bigger dopamine spike.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm glad you see it my way too, because I was like, I'm gonna talk to Vish about this one because I'm pretty sure there's something here, bro. Like you're right, like predisposition to health, like, but there's also like chemical predispositions too. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was weird though, right? Like, it's weird too. If I had never, if Tara's sister had never asked me that question, I would have died never knowing any of this. Like, I didn't listen at all. That's crazy, bro. Yeah.
Well,
But anyways,
we
yeah.
went to I think when we were there, we went to a base, right? We were in some place, I remember.
I was so locked into myself that I don't
Oh
like. I
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There was different things going on at
yeah,
the time for you,
yeah,
but
yeah, no, well, but even aside from that, but like when I went to the Philippines as like a teenager too, like they brought you around, but you're like, yeah, well, it's a grave, yeah, that's cool. When you're like a kid and they're like, this is the Sistine Chapel, you're like, yeah, it's a nice chapel, yeah, whatever. I know, so play my video games. You know what I mean? Like you don't care at all until like later you're like,
maybe, yeah, maybe. I was just different, I guess. I mean, these are the things that
you were definitely different, yeah,
I was the experiment, no, like the experience of it. Like, what is this
yeah,
new stuff? Like, I've never been to a military base before.
right, right. And you went to church with me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like you
yeah,
were like you're just very like interested in
yeah.
different things. Whereas I'm just like, unless it's entertaining, I don't care, you know?
But yeah, I think my view at that time probably was still it's life, it's just experience. This is all like
Yeah, true.
something interesting about the world. Yeah.